Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wine Down. Hence, all the wine.
The vino.
The vino. It's Friday. Hello. We are starting our weekend with a hefty pour. Don't worry. I notoriously pour Hillary
A very substantial glass, which I'm not opposed to.
There you go.
This is a Poggio Torto from Toscana.
Good job.
Italiana.
We always give Hillary,
Italia.
We always give Hillary the hard jobs. She was reading it before. I was like, you got that? You can say that, right?
I did take 2 semesters of Italian in college.
There you go. I took a 0, so...
And it was an 8 a.m. class, 5 days a week. So that was a silly...
And you retained it.
I did. At least, you know, how to say some of the words.
Yeah, good job.
Well, cheers.
Cheers. Cheers, everyone. I hope you have wine, too.
Mm-hmm.
You all deserve it. Yes.
Yes.
It's like fuel for the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a nice light red. Like, it doesn't feel very heavy to me.
It's like strong but soft at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Like a pillow.
I always think people like explaining like wine just sound hilarious. They're like, it's like dirty but it's clean. It's sweet but it's also spicy. I know that's a whole,
yes,
you know.
It's a whole thing. I just enjoy drinking it.
I know.
That's
me
my
too.
thing.
And this is a really nice one.
Yeah, this is delicious.
It's going to go down very easy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of the shows that aired today. This is my first glass, okay? That was my first sip, in fact.
Maybe this may be our second take of the show.
Right. But this is, you know, the end of the week, so come on. But yes, so we're going to talk about a couple of the episodes that aired this week that were just good episodes. And the first one we're going to talk about is Your Money or Wealth. Are you ready to retire?
Fast track your retirement.
Yeah. They're just really good, I think, at breaking down a plan that is easy to understand. And I know this because it's hard for me to understand most things finance related. Which is why it's weird that I'm working here, but or it's not because I'm learning.
No, exactly. And I agree with you. I think, you know, you said it earlier where they take these harder to understand concepts, especially if you aren't financially minded or haven't learned finance or frankly aren't really interested in it. You just know you need to know it.
Right.
But they break it down so that it's easy to understand the action items and you can see what you need to do.
I mean, it's actually like, it's very simple math that they give you.
Yes.
And that's me. I need like the very basic math. And the structure that they do like a little PowerPoint presentation. Do they still call it that, PowerPoint presentations?
Depends on how you do it, but yes.
Is that dated? I don't know.
Most of the time people call it a deck these days. There's different ways you can create a deck.
Well, they give you visuals.
Yeah.
And that helps me. So we're going to take a hypothetical situation, all right? Let's say...
I love a good hypothetical situation.
This is a hypothetical situation. So let's say when you retire, you want a spending allowance of $50,000, all right? You want to have some fun. You don't want to go crazy, but you want to have some fun. Okay, so you take, $50,000. You can plan that you're probably going to be getting around $30,000 in Social Security. Okay, that leaves you with $20,000 that you need to make up or have saved previously to ensure that you can have $50,000 to spend that year. So, you take that $20,000 that you need to find that money for, and you multiply it by how many years you think you're going to live. I'm just kidding. No, actually. Let's say 25 years. So you multiply that by 25 years, and then you get the number that you need to save to retire the way that you want to retire. And that number in this hypothetical case is $500,000. So that's your number, and that's what you do. And it doesn't have to be 50. Maybe you can, you could live more frugally if you want.
More frugally, or maybe you're going to spend more money because you're going to travel more.
Yeah, it depends on what you want and how you envision your retirement to be. But I like this breakdown that they gave. I was like, oh, I understand this.
Right. And then I liked that they broke it down even further on how much you need to save a month, depending on your age, in order to get to that $500,000.
Yeah, they've got your back.
Which also is a little daunting. And I think
If you haven't been thinking about it.
if you haven't been
already,
thinking about it, that is always the scariest part. And I think it's one of the things that, I've known. We all know you need to start early.
Because if you start early, the number isn't going to overwhelm you.
Right.
And the later you start, you go, well, where am I going to get that?
Yeah. And in fact, I actually checked my numbers against what they had for.
Did you really?
And I was like, oh, am I saving that much each month? And I'm like, oh, I don't think I am. I am. So I'm very happy, very pleased with myself.
Yeah.
But because it comes directly out of my paycheck, I just don't even think about it.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
And so I was just very concerned that I was on track. I am. I feel very proud of myself.
If you get to retirement, you're like, I have a spending allowance of $50 a year. What am I going to do? You need to be like that person. We talked about people with like weird inheritance stories. You need to be like the lucky person from the phone book that gets randomly selected to get all of somebody's estate.
That would be lovely.
That would be super lovely. But yes, we love Joe and Al. They're just like, they're the best. They're like, it's like home. It's like comfortable home. Trust them. Learn something. Fun to watch. I don't know. I just think they're great.
I also love that they have real talk situations. I can't remember who had written in her question. She didn't feel like she had enough retirement set aside yet. And Joe was very, very frank with her that no, she can't retire yet.
Girl, you gotta keep working.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that they say, and is consistent messaging as well, is that you need to, if you can, delay your retirement as much as possible. Even if it is you fully retire, but you work part-time for a few years or work part-time until you're 70, it can really affect how much you're able to spend in your full retirement. Yeah. And I think that that's really true. My parents waited to both fully retire until past their full retirement age, which is
FRA.
Yeah, the FRA, which is set by the Social Security. The date you can start collecting your Social Security. And so they both worked for much further into that time period so that they could get their full Social Security benefits
Sometimes I think it's also just good for your mind to keep going as long as you can. Just stay active in things. And it's just, just keep your mind sharp as well, you know. But I also get...
But I also want to retire early, so there's that too.
Exactly.
I also understand the flip side.
Big travel plans. Right. Big plans.
Where there's the FIRE movement. And, that is definitely something that I feel like everybody aspires. Well, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people do aspire to retiring early. And
yeah, some people are forced to as well. They're forced into early retirement. I think that was another episode of theirs. I hope I didn't get that wrong. But I think, they talked about that as well. What happens if you are forced into an early retirement and how you got to tune into all these episodes.
They do teach you a lot.
They do teach you a lot. Okay, we are going to take a quick commercial break, but we will be right back. See you soon. The next show that we're going to talk about is this week's episode of Life's Third Act with, they talk about Richard Robertson, who is a Scholastic CEO. He's a very wealthy man who passed away and surprised his family by leaving almost the entirety of his estate to his girlfriend.
Including voting shares and Scholastic, the company. So what he owned of Scholastic.
Which she was very involved in for years.
Yeah. So it was a company that was started by his father. So it was something he inherited. Yeah. And he worked there. And, they own such amazing titles as Clifford the Big Red Dog, which we all love.
Yeah, we do.
The Harry Potter series.
Right.
Hunger Games. As well as the Magic School Bus. So, and also, I don't know if you remember book fairs from when you were little.
Oh, yeah.
That was like my favorite time of year at school was book fair.
Yep.
And so that was one of the things that they pioneered. And so there's a lot of equity and in the name, but also in the actual titles that they own.
But the sons, they weren't involved in the company, were
Correct.
they? And the only thing, like, you know, we don't know or have like the dirty details, the ins and outs of the relationships between him. I mean, we're just kind of guessing based on what happened. We know that there has been, you know, they're surprised and they're fighting it.
Yes.
But yeah, that's the thing, is like, you don't really know what somebody's going to do unless they really sit you down and talk to you about it. But yeah, they did not expect that most of their father's estate was going to go to this girlfriend.
Right. The girlfriend who has worked there for over 30 years.
Yeah, so she
is significantly younger than...
Yes, they did touch on that.
Than Richard was.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder if there was tension between the boys and maybe that situation. I don't know.
Right.
But
she does seem like a very smart woman.
Yeah.
She does not
She's
seem
paid
like
her dues at the company,
Anna
for sure.
Nicole Smith situation.
Yeah, that's like the example. They're like, this is different than that. She's like a bright, successful woman. But this is another thing that I'd love to have, another, you know, show I'd love to have a documentary on, where they really kind of get into the nitty gritty of the actual relationships. Right. And why were they so shocked about it, you know? Because we don't have that information and we want it. Do you want to come be guests on the show and tell us?
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
We would be very excited.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it feels like they seemed super shocked.
Yeah.
But since they weren't involved, really, can you be?
I mean, not really with the business part of it. I think maybe when it comes to some other things.
Right. Maybe some other assets.
Then, you know, they probably just thought they'd be getting something more than they did.
Right.
And didn't it say, I don't know if I can remember the specifics, but the ex-wife said, okay, I'll do this if you promise this in return.
Yeah, they talked on Life's Third Act, they talked about how the ex-wife had apparently loaned him some money.
Yes.
With the expectation that the sons would get control of the company. However, none of that was in writing. And so obviously it
So he basically took the money and ran. He's like, yes. Yeah. Not doing it.
So, I mean, I think there's always get things in writing. Verbal contracts are not
Make sure you sign your will or trust.
Sign your will or trust. That was the other juicy kind of detail they also touched on, was that supposedly he was in the middle of writing a new will or trust.
Right.
Will and trust. I would imagine he has both.
That's what the kids were saying.
That's what the kids were saying, but nothing is legally binding unless it's actually signed. So there's nothing, it doesn't matter. You might have the intent to do it, but if you die before you sign it, it's not.
Yeah, because his will was from 2018. It wasn't that long ago.
No.
And so the boys were trying to argue, and there's no, I think, proof of this anywhere, but they were trying to argue that he was actually, before he died, in the process of creating a new will. So, again, we will never know, but it's that would be painful. That would be painful. And also just because your father has passed away, he's made these decisions that you can't now, speak to him about and ask him why. And something that they talked about on the episode was, talking to your family, even if it's not something that they don't want to hear.
Right.
It can help them, even if they're angry, even if it can help them just by understanding why, to just have that closure at the end of the day,
right.
And it's obviously super uncomfortable to talk about those things, especially if it's not in your favor.
Right.
And you're like, well, I'm not going to give you anything because this, and this.
Well, and I thought that the senior attorney who was part of this episode, and I forget her name, unfortunately.
Yeah.
She had some interesting points, which I thought was really kind of funny, in that she mentioned that some people, they advocate not for doing videotape wills or trusts or doing a videotape explanation, because sometimes those can be taken a couple different ways. If somebody's nervous, if somebody's nervous being on camera, then they can, if somebody's unhappy with the will, then
Yeah.
or the trust, then they can they might be able to contest it.
Right.
But, and she did say that a majority of her clients do have this mentality of they're going to do what they want with their money, which valid.
Yeah.
But, and it's like, figure it out. I'm dead, so you guys can figure it out. Like, I don't want to deal with it. Her advice is to write a letter or have the conversations beforehand so that people aren't necessarily surprised.
Yeah, well, and if you don't want to have that conversation, at least leave a letter with your will.
Yeah, with the intent.
Yeah.
So that people can understand possibly the reasoning.
Yeah.
I also, one of the other things she mentioned that to make sure that if you are going to disinherit somebody or not include somebody in the inheritance or your will or trust at all, is to make sure they get mentioned, especially if it's an immediate family member, because there is this, like, it's not a loophole, but it's a little bit of a legal gray area where if they're not mentioned, maybe they were forgotten about, which could be like a mental incapacity thing, which is like, so they write into some wills and trusts that I leave my daughter nothing but my love. And I was like, oh, that's harsh.
That's really harsh.
Ooh.
Is that love? I don't know.
Like, couldn't be $1,000. I don't know.
I mean, there are all of these, like, really, it's so nuanced that you really do have to work with a financial professional, because there are a lot of, and you really do learn that on this episode. There's like so many little things that if you're just not aware of, and why would you be aware of it? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about this the other day, how there was somebody who actually left sticky notes on things with like people's names on it around their house, but that's not legally binding in any capacity.
Yeah. It's the founder of Zappos, who passed away very unexpectedly last year. He had written sticky notes of, I give $1 million to this friend and this friend.
I think someone to that
and
level
people
of
are trying
success,
to collect on it. Yeah.
Like would be more organized.
Right. Well, especially in there's a lot of speculation about how he was feeling and who he was surrounded with in the last couple of years of his life.
Yeah. Well, how do you know that someone else didn't just walk around leaving sticky notes?
Right. Yeah. Which is why they're not binding. Sticky notes are not binding.
I mean, I guess they could analyze the handwriting. I mean, they might not be handwritten. I'm just picturing it so like a sticky note on a couch, a sticky note on the front door, like for the house. You know what I mean? Just someone's name. I mean, that's the thing. Like everything it has to be done legally.
Yes.
Otherwise, it kind of means nothing.
Right.
And you can't trust that people are just going to say that's what they wanted, because oftentimes what they want is more important. Unfortunately.
Well, and I thought Joe had a very funny point of view too. He was talking about how estate planning law is actually really old, and it's based on Old English law from like the 14 and 1600s, and sometimes that's the case law that people go back to when they're trying to prove a case, which is beyond nuts that we're trying to go back that far to precedents that were set in the 1400s. Like feudal times, when people could still basically own each other. Anyway, but he was saying how cynical estate planning law is because they don't take people's, what people say for face value. It has to be written. It has to be legal. It has to be signed. It has to be done in a specific way.
That you have to pay attention
Otherwise,
to.
Basically, well, we don't believe you because you're probably committing fraud. And so, like, just a very cynical view of human nature over the past 1,000 years, almost.
Yeah, it's just funny. There's just this whole, like, we are not to be trusted.
Right.
That's the moral of the story with inheritance.
Right. Apparently,
right. I mean, I definitely hope to be a chain breaker in that storyline. I really want to be just upfront about everything with, my daughter. And just say, here's what to expect. Here's where we're at. I just never want to seem secretive about finances. I think that, I mean, we've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I mean, it kind of brings me back to, I know a couple, myself, we have our trust in place, but also my husband's parents got their trust in place, and they wrote into it that things would go to their children or their grandchildren. But if there were no grandchildren, and if there were, if my husband passed away before I did, I wouldn't get his portion of the money. It would go either directly to my child, or if we didn't have a child, it would be split up between his two sisters instead.
I see. And
they sat down and had conversations with all of us. And I was like,
and you're like,
that makes
what?
sense.
I'm just kidding.
No, I was like, sure. I'm not going to fight that. But again, it was nice to have the heads up way before anything happened. We had this conversation, I think, before we were married. It wasn't
I mean, that's noble.
It could have been a tough conversation for them to have. Maybe they were thinking I would have a different reaction, but I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, there's other children, right? There's other children, and you probably feel the same way with your kids, right? You would say, if they're not there, I would want the money to go to my kids. Yeah. It's I can understand it, but still, what? I'm just kidding.
So, but I mean, what could have been a really tough conversation.
Yeah.
And probably was, especially going into it on their end.
Yeah.
You never know how people are going to react. And
right. And luckily, you're reasonable. You're reasonable.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Some of the time. Okay. Sometimes.
Sometimes. In this case, you were. And you appreciated, the transparency.
Right.
And I think that it's healthy for everybody. It really is. Yeah. It's just better to know.
It's better to know.
Yep. We're going to be game changers. Things are going to change.
Our generation, it's going to change.
It's going to change. It's going to start with ROI TV. Yep. We're spreading hope. Hope for a better financial future for all the generations to come.
You know it.
Well, on that note, I'm going to have a sip of wine because...
Yeah, we should. Because it's Friday.
Because it's Friday. So here we go. And I think we're going to say goodbye to everyone. All right. Well, that is a wrap on another episode of The Wind Down, episode 11. Oh, my goodness. Our numbers are getting up there.
I know.
It's a lot of wine.
Delicious.
It is delicious. But we hope to see you again next week on another episode of The Wind Down. And where can you catch us?
You can watch ROI TV on Roku, Amazon Fire, or Apple TV, or on your phone on iOS or Android. Cheers.
Cheers. Ding.